Good morning, Daily Huddle, and welcome to another Monday. We're excited to be here, be up and ready to go on a Monday morning. It's a great spot to be. We've got a topic this morning that some people already know the answer to, right? But we want to make sure that we can answer that question for some of you that don't. And there's a lot of uncertainty going on around the world of investing and saving. And what do I do now? What do I do moving forward? So our question is, how do you save/invest during a recession? So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But to get started, I want to give you some humor. And first, see if anybody can answer this one. Why is Ireland a good investment?
I know the answer.
Because their capital is Dublin. All right. Well, I'm Zack Otey, and my wife Kimberly is in the other square there on our Hollywood squares here. So we're again excited to be here to share with you guys some information, take some questions at the end to make sure that that your time is valued, and we give you some good stuff. So our question of the day, like I said earlier, is how do you save/invest during a recession? But before we get started on that, we have a few questions we'd like to ask you guys. And let me see, how about, I'm going to call on Stacy. Stacy, can you hear me? That's not your question.
Yes, I can hear you. I was brushing my teeth.
See, that's getting the day started right. Get the day started with this group. What time is it, Stacy, and what are you grateful for?
All right. I'm sorry. I heard the second part of that question. What am I grateful for? I am grateful for a very wonderful and successful transition. My wife, Sonia, has come, and we are home purchasing, and it is a challenge, and it is going. It is going. I will say that. So I'm very grateful for her expertise in this, and that she's here. And then, what was the first question?
What time is it?
What time is it? The time is always now, right? That's the time that we have full mastery of. This time right here, right now, in this very, very moment.
That's it. Outstanding. What a bunch of good energy. All right, Rashida, you're up. Where are you? And who will you hug today?
I am in my universe space that they grant me today with, and I'm going to hug me and the universe.
It's a big old arm stretch, right? Grab that universe.
Yeah. All right. And Kimberly, how are you? I love putting you on the spot.
I was fine until you asked me a question. I am exactly how I say I am, and I'm amazing.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's get started talking about how amazing of an opportunity we have in these kind of financial times to actually make good choices and come out on the backside better than we went in. So I'm Kimberly, and I have a presentation that we're going to go back and forth and share with you guys, talk about that question of the day. And it was funny because Sorrell answered our question very quickly when we got on pre-meeting. So I hope that this is common knowledge when we get out there and talk about it. But Kimberly, you want to go ahead and bring that up?
Yes, I do. If you guys will let me share, that would be amazing. And then we can go from there. So as soon as I see that pop up, there we go. I can see it. So again, like Zack said, our question today is, how should I save and invest during a recession? I think, oh, there we go. I was like, you're going to see everything before I even get to start. How should I save and invest during a recession? I think that's a big question. We know we're going into a recession. We don't know how long it lasts. And our natural tendency during any time of uncertainty is to have that scarcity mentality, right? And to pull everything tight and to hold it close until we see that things are better. But it's not necessarily how we should move forward in our everyday life. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is there are always reasons not to invest. So if you look at this historical timeline, it's actually pretty interesting. You know, if we start all the way back at 1934, I'm going to read these through 2020. I'm just kidding. So if we look all the way back at 1934, that was the Depression, right? And then we go into 1950, and that's the Korean War. 1960, Russia downs U-2 planes. And then we look at the Cuban Missile Crisis. And we look at, in 1982, it's the worst recession in 40 years. In 89, we've got the October mini crash. We've got all the way down to, we'll talk about the ones that are most recent that we remember. We've got the oil prices in 2016. We've got the North Korea ballistic missile launch in 2017. The US government shuts down in 2018. North Korean tensions in 2019. COVID, the coronavirus, which we all felt very recently and remember in 2020. There's always a reason, there's always a time in history that we are uncertain about. But history is full of events that could have prevented the boldest investors from planning their financial future. And it's time to decide what will make more sense, starting your investment plan today or putting it off until the economic conditions are just right. Remember, now is always the hardest time to invest. Anything you want to say that before I
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is just to paint a picture, right? That when we talk about when and is it the right time, I love the way we talk about the daily huddle. The time is now, right? And when it comes to planning and investing for your future, the time is now. Regardless of what's going on in the world around us, the time is now to be focused on those kind of things. So yeah, that's just to show you there's always been a reason or an excuse to wait. And waiting, as the next slide will show you, is not always the best thing to do.
So we're going to talk about this. You guys have seen this slide before if you've been with us for a minute, but I think it's important now to talk about this again. And it's called the high cost of waiting. You can pay now or you can really pay later. So if we take these two different scenarios, this one person on the left started today, and the other person waited 7 years to start. So you can see that this person was 25 when they started. They're putting in $3,600 a year, and they did that every year for 7 years. At age 48, they've contributed $25,000 into this account, and they have $128,000 at the end of the day. In contrast, the person to our right waited 7 years. They're like, I'm only 25. It's not time yet. My dad says wait until I'm 30. You guys have heard those stories of ours before. And so that person started when they were 31, putting in $3,600 a year into this investment account. So they contributed a total of $61,200. At the end of the day, at age 48, they had $131,000. So they're almost even, except the person on the right had to contribute almost $40,000 more than the person on the left because they waited. They didn't have time for their money to compound and to grow. So it just shows you that the longer you wait, the less doubles you'll have. We've talked about the rule of 72 before. So regardless of how you start, now is always the answer. Regardless of what's going on in the economy, now is always the answer. Sorrel answered that question for us very, very quickly and eloquently and easily when he said, you just keep doing it, just like you're doing now, right? Consistency is the key.
Yeah, so we're going to share you another image, and then I'm going to talk about a common, what I see as a very interesting difference in the way we look at two different investments or two different things in our investment life. So go ahead and go to the dollar cost averaging. Have you guys heard of dollar cost averaging? If you have, awesome, tune in. You may hear something that you haven't. Don't tune out on us. I'm gonna cover this fairly quickly. Kimberly doesn't like for me to go over things fast. She says sometimes I make the assumption that people have seen this as many times as I have. So this is a comparison, and it's not really what we're talking about right now, but it is a comparison between a lump sum of $8,000 going in right now over an 8-month period, watching that lump sum grow, or taking that $8,000 and putting $1,000 a month into an investment. The reason I bring this up now is because a lot of folks stop or start waiting or stop investing, right, when the market becomes volatile, when the market starts to go down. And so what I want you to see is that most of us we may not have a lump sum to invest, but I want you to know that as a systematic investor, investing in a recession or in a volatile time gives you this same benefit, right? So I may not have that lump sum to put in, or maybe I do. Either way, it's now time for me to systematically continue to invest. So if I put $8,000 in and I buy $10 shares, and in 8 months, you see the volatility, it goes up, it goes down, it goes back up. And then 8 months from now, that share is still worth $10. I've had zero rate of return on my investment, right? Because the market is then worth exactly what it was at the beginning. But if I systematically invest and buy at different price points as the market is volatile, that same $8,000 invested at $1,000 a month over those 8 months gave me a return of 4%. Does that make sense? Do you see how that worked? So instead of just parking it in there and letting it ride the market, right? I was smart in my timing of when I systematically invested. So that's something that we get to do right now in these volatile times, because at the end of this recession, which I know it may not seem like it, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, and wealth is created in opportunistic times like this, as long as we follow these kinds of systems. So go to the next one. If we are talking about a lump sum of investment, which is another picture altogether, then it might be something where we look at the market going down like we do the housing market. And this is what I wanted to bring up. We talked about, we've talked a lot about home ownership and how to do that and those kind of things. And people looked for, after 2008 and in the last time, there were lists of homes that were coming out of from realtors on the foreclosure market, and people were excited about buying down, right? They were buying when the market was down. But for some reason, we have this mental sticking point that we don't want to buy the money market when it's down. We want to stay away from it, right? Have you guys heard anybody that says, ooh, I don't really want to buy in the stock market right now, it's kind of volatile, I'm going to wait till things level out or till it gets better, and then I'm going to buy in? A lump sum outperforms that attempt to time the market over 71% of the time, if you just go in at the right time and let it ride itself up there. So when investing a lump sum of money over 20 years, you can take the market's history and look at 20-year intervals, and that lump sum would have outperformed that dollar cost averaging. So,
and I think it's important in this example to know both of them have a place, right? But we're talking about if you have $100,000 and you're like, do I put it in now or do I wait? Is the market too high? Is the market too low? Instead of taking that lump sum and dividing it over that 12-month period or however long and dollar cost averaging it in, it's just saying to dump it all at once. Typically, historically speaking, or at least 71% of the time speaking, and you should outperform it because that money is there to grow. But also, as Zack said, from a monthly investment perspective, and I think that's where we all need to think about our assets in two different ways. We need to think about what we have to invest in lump sums, and we need to think about what we have to invest in monthly money. Right? Two different conversations, two different strategies. What do we have? But monthly money right now in the market, dollar cost averaging, buying those shares while they're low. Why does everybody go shopping on Black Friday? Because it's cheap, right? Because everybody wants a sale. So it's on sale right now. I think the key is having someone that understands how to invest that money for you, and making sure that your goals and your objectives are taken care of. But also just starting now. Don't wait. Don't try to time the market. Whatever you do, whether it's big or small, doing something is always going to get you further down the road than waiting and trying to time it. Because most of the time, if you try to time the market, you're going to miss it.
Yeah, and timing the market is one of those things. And we talk to people a lot that want to be day traders, or they're self-proclaimed experts. And we've been in this business for a long time.
Some do well,
and some do well. And in those bullish times where the market's going up, and we've seen a few of those, and we've seen the situation we're in now also happen in the market in our career. But when the market's going up, anybody can look like a hero, because some of the times you can just pick anything. But it's in those volatile times, right, when you have to have someone that knows what they're looking at different things than what Yahoo News says or what the finance headlines are talking about. Those are a lot of times shock and awe. You'll see the market futures jump and change and all that kind of crazy stuff based on news headlines. And we switched several years ago now to someone that's an economist and understands the market, the underlying economy and how it affects the market. And so that's one of the things that we do a lot of is letting him and his research help us guide our clients. So we don't try to pick the market and the stock like that. So, in summing that up, do it now, right? Let's go systematically, and we can work out where that goes and how that goes, and talk about the details of that. We're going to talk about another piece of this next week to kind of give you a heads up from that perspective, that we're going to talk about how to have accounts that can participate in the upside of the market, but then lock in and not participate in the downside of the market. So we'll also talk about now's a good time to buy and grow your investments. But what happens if you have to retire now, or you have to access those investments during a downtime or during volatile times? So there's two different sides of a down market. And if timing is difficult for you guys or someone you know, might be good information to have as to how to draw out during down markets as well. So what about Kimberly, you have anything you want to wrap up with? Or
no, I just think, I think like we said, start now. And if you're doing it now, continue doing it. Don't stop, don't pull back, don't have that scarcity mentality and say, well, I want to wait until things settle out, because you're going to miss some opportunities. You're going to miss some moments. But I think, again, as we always say, with individual questions or global advice, the answer is it always depends. It depends on your personal situation, where you are, and what your goals and your needs are at that time. But let's open it up to some questions for you guys. You got to ask questions because I can't sing. Zack can though. Zack can sing. Sorrel, you have a question?
I know Zack can sing. I was going, but my question was, could Zack sing?
Yeah, he can sing. It's a Christmas song, right? Like,
I heard two things that I want to reiterate as lessons that I'm learning. As smart as I am, I can never time the market right. The only thing there is for me to do is to invest now. And as smart as I am, I can be very dumb by not starting now.
Yep.
And boy, that's a tough lesson to learn.
And I think it's everybody's natural mentality is I want to, I need to, I know, but not today. Today, I've got to finish my Christmas shopping, and I've got to make sure my Christmas trees are up, and I've got to make sure everything is ready for this weekend. And then that leads to tomorrow, and it leads to I'm going to start in January. And then in January, you got to pay off your Christmas debt, right? And then it just is this perpetual moving forward of I'm going to. And one day, but you're right. The key is to start now. However you start. Some of you guys have given some good recommendations. Just on the app. Is it Digit that you guys were talking about one time? Yeah, Rashida says yes. I think it's digit or digits or whatever. Even though that's not technically investing, it's still saving. It's still something. It might be small, right? Where I think it just rolls up your checking account. Like if you spend $1.50, it puts 50 cents in savings and makes it $2 or something like that. But anything is starting. Doing anything more than what you're doing right now is starting. And I think it's important to talk about that. And we'll talk, throughout some of these days about the different scenarios and the different conversations. But, Zack and I have been in this world for 20 years. So pretty good time, right? Long enough to have seen a lot and to have met with a lot of people and talked to a lot of people. And I would tell you, probably a very large percentage. I would tell you probably in the 90s and above, and probably above percent of the people that we've met with have less than 2 years of their actual income saved for retirement, even towards retirement age. And people think they can retire. And it's unfortunate, but it's reality because we're dealing with our human nature, right? And we're dealing with, I want to invest money and I want that money to grow, but I really also have to buy these Christmas presents and I want this today. Or I have a vacation fund, but I don't have a retirement fund. And I see it all of the time. So as uncomfortable as sometimes those conversations are, because they are, it's kind of like, going to the gym or starting a diet or holding ourselves accountable to that. When you're ready to retire, if you only have 2 years saved, your life is either going to change completely from everything that you've ever known, or you're not going to retire. And nobody wants to have those conversations. So however uncomfortable it is, whatever you can do, whoever you do it with, whatever that looks like to you, start now. Because if you don't start now, it's painful later.
That's it. I mean, we want to find the silver lining, right? We want to be positive. We want to be excited about where we are today. We are right here where we are. We're in the space, like Rashida said, that the universe gave us today. What do we do with that space? What do we do with that time that we have? We can woe is me, and we can look out there and listen to how bad it is, or we can say, you know what? Money's on sale.
Yeah.
Right?
It's cheap.
I can have growth. That what I see now is a value to me in the future. We can look back and say the stock market does its thing, the economy does its thing. It's cyclical. If it weren't cyclical, it wouldn't work the way that it does. So we are now in a time where when we go out there and invest in ourselves, we're buying, like the housing market's at the bottom, and we're buying our dream home. Not only are we going to be able to live in that home, but we're also going to be able to watch it appreciate. So let's get your dream plan put together and let's move in that direction. So very, very excited about the opportunities that are out there to make money and to earn money on what we've already invested or to start new adventures. The many entrepreneurs find their launch pad in down markets because we have a problem. So we find a low economic time, and it's time to think creatively. How can I solve this problem? And you'll see that you'll see some great change come out of these kind of things too. So, but hopefully we're in for a brief time in this down market and in these tight financial times. But either way, we're here. And so let's make the best of it, and let's find that silver lining and look forward to spending time with you guys and our families over the holidays and really appreciating and enjoying what's important. And that is that we are here, right? So
what other questions do you guys have? Do you guys have any other questions or comments that y'all want to talk about today?
Curious about the $8,000 lump sum versus $1,000 at a time.
Right.
It ended up at the end of the graph where the overtime investment earned 4.7%. Was that lump sum actually, well, at the end of the time, you had $8,000 if you invested lump sum.
Right.
Did you actually have more by dollar cost averaging?
In that case,
example.
yes. The dollar cost averaging concept was developed years ago discovered. People have been dollar cost averaging for years, not really realizing it as a monthly investor, right? But when you have people trying to time the market, it sometimes becomes stressful for the customer, for the investor or the advisor to say, is now the right time? And so years ago, they said, you know what, we see the future, that the next several months coming, that we're going to have volatility. And so that's what we see right now is volatility. And in times of volatility, and there's an index that you can track, the VIX, that tracks the volatility. It's the volatility index, tells you what the market feeling is for volatility. And in those times, the best thing is to just take, if I have $8,000 sitting on the sideline and let's say a cash position, it's not earning anything. It is worth what it's worth, right? Sitting in my savings account or in my checking account. Then I might say over the next few months, I don't know, I was going to buy it all in now. And I can use Bitcoin as something that people would think of.
It's painful.
It is painful if you own Bitcoin or you've been in that crypto world. And I'm not suggesting that that's the world you get into, but it's something that people have seen and they understand, because they go, wow, if I bought Bitcoin at 1 cent, 10 years ago, and then it went up to $51,000 or $60,000 per coin, and now we're back down to $28,000 per coin, or that was probably a couple of days ago. It might be lower than that now. That is where the dollar cost averaging piece would have benefited someone, right? Instead of throwing it all in when it was at $50,000 a Bitcoin, thinking they were going to keep going through the roof. So in that case, in times of volatility, yes, Sorrel, that's when you look at it and say, instead of buying it all right now, if that's a decision I'm trying to make, over the next few months, I'm going to divide it up evenly and still be systematic. I'm not going to say, well, right now I'm going to put in, a little bit and I'm going to wait and watch it and see. I'm still going to take the pressure off of me being smart enough to figure it out, right? I'm still going to let the math work. And in that case, the average is I buy some shares high and some shares low. But at the end of the day, instead of buying all of my shares at $10 and down the road, they're all worth $10 again, I bought some at 10, some at 14, some at 9, some at 12, and it averaged out to where my share price was cheaper. That's where the averaging comes in. So in times of volatility, dollar cost averaging is a good thing to look at. And I think that's what we're headed into right now.
Yeah. And that's what you do. Typically, a lot of people do that with their 401ks and things like that when they're just investing monthly, right? They have that direct drafted from their paycheck. They're dollar cost averaging. They're buying every single month systematically. Doesn't matter where the market is. They're just doing that. So a lot of people do that anyway, unintentionally. But now's a great time to do it because we know that we have a volatile market coming. So you'll get some sale prices and some shares on sale.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, if we don't have any other questions or any other comments, next week we will talk about indexing, and I think Zack mentioned that before. And what if it's not time to be in the market for you anymore? What are your options? What are your choices? What does that look like? So we'll go into some of those strategies and have those conversations next week. So with that being said, we will go over our 8 tenets. You want to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
Love, like we said, let's just appreciate each other and love each other. Laugh out loud. We do that a lot. Our kids are coming home, and it's going to be an interesting few weeks with all of us back together in the house, and I'm looking forward to that. Stress less. Like I said, the news is the news. You can only control what you can control, and so take a deep breath. Eat mostly plant-based. Treat your body right. Give of your time. Just give. It feels so good. Sleep.
Sleep feels good too.
Sleep feels good. Move. We get up in the morning after that sleep. Sometimes it's a little stiffer the older we get too, right? But move around, get out there, and then check yourself before you wreck yourself. Take your pause and let's go from there. So we'll see you guys next time on the Daily Huddle.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a great day. One love.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zack. Kimberly.